Hello guys, Art-Teeves here. Welcome to my last video of 2024. I hope you're having a great holiday, a winter break, or if you're watching this video later, that your year is great, peaceful, full of joy and some positive new experience. This is the final part of my playlist that covers the process of texturing this robot in Substance Painter. A brief reminder, I've split my model into two different materials. One covers the landscape and chair, while the other one is used by the robot and his fishing pole. I never optimized the model, so it doesn't have a low poly version for us to bake the high poly one to it. The whole scene is something about 17K polygons. My baking settings include using the highest possible amount of raise on all tabs, disabling the ID section, turning off the interaction between most objects, and also setting my subsampling to 16. Both UV maps are unwrapped to a 2K reso with a padding of 8. I texture the model in 4K reso, but the preview you saw is 2K, and so are final textures. I start texturing robot by creating 3 versions of the default steel painted worn preset smart material. The first one is responsible for his main coating, the second one is darker and has its height reduced, and the third one is even more dark and its height is also reduced even more. I mask the second and the third layers, apply some paint layers to them, and use the follow along path tool and the third layer to create some cracks that separate painted panels. I use the hard brush and toggle all path vertices to corners. Next I switch to my second material and use the hard brush and the paint layer to paint in some missing panels. I also use a different version of the same material to highlight some parts of the antenna and also some elements of the robot like his iframes. For boots I simply use a preset leather Stylized smart material. They'll get covered in snow anyway. The only important thing here is to highlight their curvature with a thick line of bright color. This will make them less serious and more stylized. Next I create a fill layer, increase its roughness greatly, make it almost black and use it to fill in boot cavities where the legs go. I play around with this layer's opacity to make it blend better. For eyes I use the default dusty plastic smart material and enable the emission channel in the texture set settings menu. I add emission to base color and also to the dust channel so it blocks some of the basic light and actually makes dust visible. I color the top part of the antenna with a force version of the default steel painted worn smart material for it to stand out. Next I create a paint layer, set all of its blending options to pass through and use the clone stamp tool to cover all visible UV seams. Make sure to play around with your brush flow setting now and then to cover seams even better. The main idea behind this process is to break the straight line that separates UV chunks. Details won't be visible from afar and even from some relatively close distances. Next I texture the fishing pole. I simply add some preset stylized wood smart material to it and rotate all of its contents the way they match the direction of the pole. For metal elements I use the steel painted scraped green smart material. There's absolutely nothing special about it. I also apply some wood texture to the mechanism's handle to make it differ from the rest of the model. For the pole line, I use the steel bright stained default smart material. In order to create an illusion of pole line being wrapped around the reel, I create a fill layer, increase its height, mask it, add a fill layer to it, and apply an anisotropic noise smart mask. I play around with its direction and tiling to get some image that matches the diameter of my line. The chair consists of leather stylized and steel painted worn smart materials. Its thread is designed the same way we have made the reel, by using a high data fill layer that has an anisotropy mask applied to it. I use 2 versions of steel painted worn here, one for metal parts and the other darker one to highlight some elements. Next I start working on the eyes. First I create a base color. Next I create a brighter fill layer and apply Grunge 007 to it to imitate some small cracks. I reduce the height of this fill layer really slightly. The third fill layer is darker and has a Grunge 013 applied to it. It imitates the bigger cracks. Finally I enable the emissive channel in the texture set settings menu, apply the force fill layer and add the stone cracks smart mask to it. I reduce its height and make it glow just a little bit. I cut out some parts of the video where I experiment with different grunges, but the grunges I mention in this voiceover are checked and exist in the final version. The snow I create here consists of 4 main elements. The first one is its base color layer. It has a relatively high roughness. The second one adds some details. It is brighter and has 2 fill layers. The first one uses the mask called Fractal Sum Base and has a tiling of 1.6. The second one uses a mask called Clouds 2. It has a tiling of 3, and its blending options are set to light and max. Our third layer stores some roughness data. Its tiling is set to 6, its X and Y patterns are set to 128, its pattern masking is set to 0.53, and also it has gradient flakes mask in its roughness input section. Next I enable the scattering channel in the shader set settings menu, and also enable subsurface scattering in the shader settings menu. I also set the scale of scattering to 0.22, and my scattering layer is set to 0.75. Never mind the snow you see here, I was experimenting with some ways to mask it. Finally I removed the snow from my eyes and only apply it to the chair and the robot itself. The chair receives it as a ground dirt smart mask, while the robot receives a modified grunge map 031. The water consists of a base layer, a height data layer that has cells 1 map in its height input section and a directional blur filter applied to it, a layer masked with concrete dirty smart mask, and also a fill layer masked with both grunge maps 10 and 9. The latter's blending options are set to subtract. I use a concrete dirty smart mask to create improvised icy bubbles. The final fill layer receives edged blur smart mask. I make it match the color of surrounding ice, so it creates an illusion of depths. And this is it. Thanks for watching, guys. I wish all of you a happy new year and best of luck in 2025. If my videos are of use to you, view my guest and subscribe to my channel for more stylized content. And most importantly, have a great day.